Welcome to live Daily Tottenham Hotspur news with me, Barnaby Slater. And what a time it is. 3 wins on the bounce and a game on Wednesday night against Manchester City, who have injury problems and have had a day's less rest than Spurs. When was the last time we could say that about an opponent? Meanwhile, lots more reports of potential transfer ins and outs in the summer, including a rumour that big Jim Ratcliffe over at Ineos United is interested in bringing Son Heung-min to Manchester. Good luck, mate. No way you're going to pay the £50 million that would take. And why would he join such a joke club anyway? I'll also be going through all the quotes and the fallout from the excellent 4-1 win away at Ipswich. Things are looking up for the first time in months. Let's enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining me on today's live Daily Tottenham Hotspur news. Guys, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, give this video a like. Please do press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. As I said, live Daily Tottenham Hotspur news every weekday, 12:30 p.m. Also getting closer to that 15,000 subscribers number. So looking to build this community. And also, as of today, some of you, if you're regular viewers of my stuff, might have seen, I'm now releasing YouTube shorts every day because you may not know this, but I'm actually, by trade, a stand-up comedian as well as doing this kind of content for you. So I'm going to be releasing daily stand-up clips across my YouTube shorts, Instagram, and TikTok. So keep an eye out for those. Let me know what you think, guys. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Barnaby Slater Comedy. Go and find me there. Also, you can become a member of this channel, just £1 a month for all this content. All the details of how are in the description box below. But let's start with some transfer rumours. And of course, Son Heung-min. There was some talk last week, wasn't there, that Spurs are starting to wonder whether they are going to keep him at the club. They did take him up on that 1 year extra. So he is not out of contract this summer. He has another year left. There are some reports that Saudi Arabia are interested. And then over the past few days, a report in Spain that Manchester United are considering a move for the 32-year-old Korean captain. Now, let me know what you think in the comments, guys. And some of you already have, and I'll be talking through some of your comments in a second. But to me, it seems absolutely wild that Jim Ratcliffe at Ineos at Manchester United, who have currently, as of today, banned free lunch for their staff in the latest in their cost-cutting measures, seems incredibly unlikely that they are going to be able to pay what it would take to get Son Heung-min out of Tottenham Hotspur this summer. Just never, ever going to happen because, as we heard last week, Saudi Arabia are willing to spend maybe 50 million euros or 50 million pounds on him. No way that Ratcliffe is going to pay that for a 32-year-old. So it seems like a rumor completely out of left field. I cannot see it happening. And also, Sonny had a really good game at the weekend. He's obviously benefiting from a little bit of rest in the week. I've talked a lot, haven't I, about how we need to really monitor his minutes, have him starting on the bench sometimes. But what we really saw against Ipswich away is when there is space for him to run into and space in behind, but also space for him to drive at his fullback, he still has that step over and ability to get to the line and get a good cross in. 2 assists in the game at Ipswich. So listen, I think it's going to take a lot more than what Jim Ratcliffe would be able to pay to get Son Heung-min out of Tottenham Hotspur. And let's not forget, he's the captain of the club, still has a chance to make this season an unforgettable one for Spurs. Chris Peters in the comments said this. Afternoon, Barnaby. Why would we sell Son? The shirt sales make plenty of money. Also, we saw on Saturday what a good break does for him. Yeah, completely agree, Chris. Not so fussed on the shirt sales front anymore, really. I think, yes, it is obviously good for the club as to how many people you see on a match day in the Tottenham club shop queuing up for merchandise. And a lot of them, I've got to be honest about it, a lot of them are Korean. And if you were going to be a cynic, maybe you'd say that's why Yang Min-hyuk has been brought into the club to kind of try and carry that on. And by the way, Yang Min-hyuk is still continuing to do really well at QPR in the Championship, which is only good news for Spurs. But I think Sonny's, made a lot of money for Tottenham Hotspur over the last 10 years or so. So I'm not so bothered going forward about keeping him just to try and sell shirts or sell merchandise. I, for one, feel like Sonny has done such an incredible job for this club that it has to be up to him now what he wants to do next. And I can't see him wanting to go to Manchester United, but could I potentially see him wanting to get a move if there was an interest in him from, say, a Barcelona, who have been shown previously to be happy to buy older players like Lewandowski, for instance? If Sonny wanted to get a move like that and it was available to him, then I would, I would wish only good things for him and to get him what he wants. And Brian Maguire, I think, probably agrees in the comments. He says, I hope if Son leaves, it's abroad. CJ in the comments says, Son won't join another English side. I don't disagree, I have to say. So, yeah, I think we all agree. JL in the comments says, morning, Barnaby. Son to Man United makes zero sense for both clubs. It would be a joke if he does go there. And Blip 1982 says, think there's more chance of Bale returning than Son going to Man United. Well, I think that probably sums it up. Gareth Bale, of course, is a full-time golfer now, and a very good one at that. Over 150 of you guys watching this concurrently now, guys. Thanks so much for your support on YouTube. Please do press that like button. Let's get us up to 50 likes. Okay, some more reports. And this is a report that's been doing the rounds over the last month or so. More reports that Spurs are indeed admirers of Moise Kean, who's at Fiorentina now, the ex-Everton player, of course. This backs up what we've heard from other sources, stating that the striker has a £43 million release clause in his contract this summer. Apparently, Spurs not the only clubs eyeing the Fiorentina striker. Also on the list of Arsenal and Aston Villa. I have to say, let me know what you think in the comments, guys, but I don't think Moise Kean coming to Spurs is very likely at all. He has genuinely started to fulfill his potential at Fiorentina, but before that, at all the clubs he was at, I always felt he's slightly flattered to deceive. And yeah, I just don't think that is likely with us having Solanke, with us having obviously potentially an option to get Matthias Tell through the door permanently. And yeah, I don't think we're going to be spending £43 million on Moise Kean. It sounds to me like that's probably agent talk, but also it wouldn't surprise me if maybe this is a bit of Fabio Paratici talk as well. Maybe he's talking to Fiorentina about a number of players, or talking to a number of Italian clubs about players, and therefore the agents get involved as well. But maybe some of you watch more Serie A than I do. So if you've been watching Moise Kean play for Fiorentina and think he's really improved so much that he would do a good job at Spurs, do let me know in the comments, because it's an interesting one for me. As I also wrote in the title as well, reports that Spurs are not only willing to sell Manor Solomon this summer, he's doing incredibly well in the Championship at Leeds, but also that Everton would potentially be interested in getting the 25-year-old Israeli winger. If you don't remember, Manor Solomon, who did a really good job on loan at Fulham from Shakhtar Donetsk, and then his contract was rendered null and void because of the war in Ukraine, and Spurs quite opportunistically picked him up on a free transfer. Shakhtar were not happy about that, to say the very least. And then he got an injury, having started a few games for Spurs at the beginning of last season, and now he's gone on loan at Leeds and is doing really well and staying fit. So I saw here in the comments, actually, a really good comment from Tribal Scan says, would be great profits if we can sell Solomon for 15 to 20 million pounds. He's been on fire at Leeds this season, so it's best we use that to our advantage. Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and thank you so much for the comment. If we can get in kind of 10 to 15, 20 million pounds for Manor Solomon, then yeah, I think that would showcase an excellent deal all in all. Clearly, Ange Postecoglou, certainly since his injury, doesn't think realistically that Solomon is going to rip it up for Spurs in the Premier League, although frankly, he is a very acceleratory wide player, which is something we've been missing. Obviously, Wilson Odobert is now back and fit and looking dangerous off the bench at the moment. I think they're correctly kind of taking it easy with him, allowing his slow transition back into the first team. But maybe Solomon could give us a little bit of something extra next season if we don't get that deal for him away sold in terms of acceleration off the bench. But if Ange doesn't rate him, then, who am I to say that we should keep him? Let's see what else is happening in the comments, guys. El Dante, thank you for your comments this morning, Barnaby. Morning chat. Hope that everyone is well and enjoying a good start to the week. Dark Angel 56 says, your last stand-up clip had me cracking up. I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, I put my first one out this morning, and it was a really interesting one, actually. If you like your stand-up, do check out my YouTube shorts or my Instagram or my TikTok. I had a really interesting gig at the weekend where I turned up, and weirdly, totally by chance, my mother's ex-boyfriend was in the crowd with the woman that he left my mum for. And then they started kind of shouting things out at me. So I've posted the clip of where basically I go back at them. So go and check that out on YouTube Shorts or Instagram or TikTok, guys. Mavis123 says, amazing. No idea you're a stand-up. Definitely check you out. Dave Bird says, loving your chats, Barnaby. Always informative and amusing, even on the bad days. Yes, but it's not a bad day, is it? 3 wins on the spin. Rummy. And like I said in the opening, Man City coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium Wednesday night, a potential glory night under the lights. We are one of their bogey teams, their main bogey team. Haaland hasn't played for a couple of games. There are reports from Guardiola that he should be involved is the word that I've seen used in the Tottenham game. So that means maybe starting on the bench. And I think there's confidence running through the ranks. One thing I will say, if you haven't seen the video that Tottenham Hotspur's social media team have released called Vicario, The Recovery, I think it's called. Check it out. It's about 13, 14 minutes long, and it's brilliant. They got access with Vicario from the moment he got injured, pretty much. It's really great insight, and it's kind of made Vicario one of my favorite players, actually. He's so down to earth. You get to meet his parents in it, who I've seen lots of social media clips of before, because they go and watch every game and they love chatting to the fans. They're really properly coys, Vicario's parents, but he's a proper down-to-earth guy, incredibly ambitious, incredibly driven, very intelligent as well, and just can really recommend watching that. I just love it when Spurs are doing okay and we've won a few games in the spin. You can watch Match of the Day on a Saturday night. You can watch Match of the Day 2 on a Sunday. I watch all of Tottenham's social media stuff. I listen to all the podcasts, and it's just such a great time to enjoy. And that's why I'm excited about this Man City game. It feels like a bit of a no-lose gamble. Listen, if City play really well and all of their £100 million players and £60 million players come to the fore, then fine, we lose. And then we have a week off before the AZ Alkmaar first leg. The key thing is just don't get any more injuries. Wrap those players in cotton wool, especially those ones down the spine. Van der Ven, Romero, Solanke, Odebear. Wrap them in cotton wool. Don't risk anything. And just enjoy the game. I wish I was able to go Wednesday night to the Tottenham City game, but I'll be doing the watch along on Chris Cowlin's channel. So make sure you check that out if you don't watch me there. They're really enjoyable. Oliver Cadle says in the comments, covering Spurs is pure comedy, mate. Well, not at the moment, but it certainly has been over the winter. Cantab says, let Son stay with Spurs until he retires and give him another role coaching, etc. Yeah, I said this last week. I've said it a few times. I'd give him a 10-year contract and say, look, you can be an ambassador, you can be a coach, you can do whatever you want afterwards, but you are a Tottenham man. I would love that. But like I said, for me, it's about what does Son want himself? And if he wants a move, if he wants something different, then yeah, I'll happily let him have that. But if not, I think if we can manage his minutes and have him starting the important games and then coming off the bench in other games when space opens up in the last third, he's still absolutely elite when he's fit and when he's not knackered. So there we go. The outlaw in the comments, great comment, says Moyes Keane was carried off on a stretcher at the weekend. He's fully coys. Yeah, he was actually. I think he got like a knee in the head, maybe. Actually. So hopefully he gets well soon. I don't wish ill on anywhere. Blip 1982 says more than happy for Solomon to go and wave flags elsewhere. That sounds a little political. Nick in Hong Kong says rather have Modric back. Great mentor for our burgeoning young players. Did you see the goal that Luka Modric scored at the weekend? Oh my God, an absolute shit pinger. Kind of reminiscent, although this one was on the volley, but reminiscent of his goal for Spurs against Liverpool at White Hart Lane, where he just stuck it straight in the top bin, where he stuck this volley straight in the top bin. It was really brilliant. Check it out if you haven't already. Mia says, we're getting something from City. Michael O'Keefe says, love the channel and content, Barnaby. Keep up the good work, from Mike in Orkney. Thank you for your comment, mate. Really appreciate it. Spread the love, guys. If you have other people who are Spurs fans who don't know about the channel, tell them about them, send them a link. And also if you have people who like stand up and want to see daily clips, send them a link too, because I'll be getting that as well. Big Tigger, good question here. Thanks, mate. Says, what happens to Kinski now? Well, don't forget, Kinski is still a very young goalkeeper, fresh into the Premier League from the Czech Republic. And therefore, he's probably played more games than he would have expected to if we'd have brought him in this summer. He had to be brought in a bit early because of the injury to Vicario. And I think he will learn off Vicario. And I've said it numerous times, but I'll say it again. I hope he learns some of Vicario's shot-stopping techniques. And I really hope that Vicario learns some of Kinski's kind of assertive, aggressive starting positions and coming off his line for corners, which I think Vicario did okay with, actually, at the weekend. Cantab says, and the sun is shining. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Maria says, Kinski will get his time to shine. Completely agree. I think from next year, Kinski will realistically be our cup goalkeeper. I think that's what will happen. That's what the big clubs really tend to do. They have a Premier League keeper and then a cup keeper. And that really only changes if you get into kind of the semi-finals or the final of the cup, at which point maybe Vicario would come in for Kinski there. Dark Angel 56 says, acquisition of Danso was such a good move. Romero may have a job in his hands getting back into the team if Danso continues to perform at this high standard. He's not fazed by anything. Yeah, I thought Kevin Danso was amazing at the weekend. I think it's probably a bit early to say Romero might have a job in his hands getting back in, because Romero is a completely elite ball-playing centre-back in terms of his ability to start counterattacks and presses and balls in between the lines to our midfield. So I think he will get back in the team as soon as he's fit, but he does have to all reports, a bit of a worrying thigh injury that is taking a long time to recover. So Danso doing a great job in the meantime. And yeah, he's really adapted well and fitted in very quickly, Kevin Danso. So very impressed. A bit of a negative one here from Jeff THFC. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate the engagement. He says, this is too much. It's not even the transfer period. I'll just unsubscribe for now. I'll be back in tune. Okay, Jeff obviously loves his transfer stuff. Fair enough. But thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go into that brilliant 5-1 victory away at Ipswich. Ange Postecoglou said the following: we had to work hard today. We knew we'd have to work hard. Ipswich are one of the hardest working teams in the league. At home, they're fighting for every point. I thought they started really well in the opening 10 to 15 minutes with the energy in the stadium, but I thought we did the hard things really well. Yeah, listen, those that first minute of the game, we could have conceded twice, and it should not be understated how huge a save that was from Vicario on the line in the first minute or two of the game. Absolutely amazing, and also slightly worrying, just to find a little bit of a negative, how easy it was once again for the opposition to get down the left flank and get their striker in on goal. Delap was in on goal twice in the inside left position in the first 4 minutes. The second one, he hit just wide. So we're pretty fortunate. But as Ange said, after the first 10, 15 minutes, we improved. And he says, a couple of times in the first half, we lost a bit of concentration in terms of the second ball and duels. We conceded a disappointing goal. But aside from that, I thought we handled that side of the game really well, which we had to. I always felt we were a threat when we had the ball. Sonny was unplayable in the first half. I agree. So good to get Brennan back in those areas where he's always a threat. All 4 of our goals were quality. We had to do the hard things, but the fruits of that labour was that our front third play was super exciting and clinical. Now, guys, let me know what you think of Brennan Johnson in the comments, because for me, he gets a bit of unnecessary stick. And he really showed in that game against Ipswich just what he is absolutely elite at, which is the timing of those runs from the back stick when his other front man, the wide left player, in this case Sonny, has the ball and gets to the byline or gets his head up in the box. That is what Johnson is elite at. The other thing he's elite at is when he's in the inside right position with the ball, those shots into the far left-hand corner. He's brilliant at those. And actually, I thought he was going to score his hat-trick towards the end of the first half. Was it towards the end of the first half? No, in the second half. I thought he was going to get a hat-trick early in the second half when he had a chance in that inside right position. But it was actually well blocked by the Ipswich defender. And then the other thing that Johnson is brilliant at when he's fit and raring and got energy in his legs, which he seems to have back now, is those crosses when he gets to the byline or when he gets is running from deep, those crosses in between the keeper and the back four. And it was great to see Johnson get a couple of goals. Johnson and Maddison, for all the abuse they've got this season, I have to say their goal return has been really impressive. And for me, I'm going to give them credit for that. Apparently I said that it was a 5-1 victory. It was actually 4-1. Apologies. Just trying to add us an extra goal. Let's save that extra goal and score it on Wednesday against Manchester City. Andrew was also asked if he feels like the team has come through the difficult phase of injuries. He says, look, we've certainly benefited from having a couple of midweeks off. That's coincided with getting a few players back. You saw today we were able to rest a couple of players in Pedro and Madders. Excuse me. I can make substitutions, and the players coming on can make a difference. It has actually been huge that we now have some depth on the bench as well. He goes on to say, we're certainly in a good space of using these 2 weeks as well as we could to re-energize the team, and I think it has. We've still got some significant players out. Solanke, Richarlison, Romero, Van der Ven, and Ben Davis was out as well. They're all still to come back. I just feel like we've got a really good opportunity in these next 10 days to be well equipped for what's ahead. What's ahead is obviously Europe, but it's also an opportunity to address our league position, which is obviously not good enough. Now, this is a positive time, isn't it? And I've talked a lot about Europe and how I want us to keep those players basically just fit only for the European games. But I want to ask you guys a question. Let me know in the comments what you think. How far up the league could we go? One of the things about Ange Postecoglou's tenure at Spurs so far is that it's been quite streaky. So when we've gone on a little run, like we're on a 3-game winning streak now, it tends to last about 9-10 games. We can go on those, like, remember, 8 wins out of the first 10 last season. And then after a difficult first few games this season, we went on a win of a good few wins in the next 10 games. Imagine, let's put our positive hats on. Imagine if we went on a run of maybe winning, what are there, like 12, 13 games left? What if we kind of went on a run and managed to win 9 or 10 of them? Do you think that's possible? And if so, where could you see us in a best case scenario finishing in the Premier League this season? Let me know in the comments. Maria has just said straight away we could make 8th. 8th, I think, would If we got to 8th, I think 7th guarantees Conference League next season. Would you want us to get in the Conference League? I'm not sure I would. Maybe I would. Only if we kind of did what Chelsea did this season and kind of played a proper reserve team in the Conference League. For me, obviously, number one priority, Europa League. Let's go deep. Let's try and win that competition. Let's try and shut everybody up, win a trophy, and then push on. But at the same time, I agree with Ange. Let's also try and put together a run in the league. Ange was also asked about Brennan Johnson's goals. He says, Brennan's really good for us. We don't really have another front third player like him. He just knows when to arrive at the right time. He's really clinical. It's great to get him back and get him 60 minutes of football. He's missed a lot. I'm sure he'll feel good after today. And then he also talked a little bit more in depth about Ben Davies's absence, which for me, I always felt was probably because he'd played so many games in a row since coming back from injury. And Ange said this, we're just managing his minutes. We've got to try to navigate these next 10 days or 2 weeks until the international break to make sure we've got as many players available as possible squad-wise for what's ahead. That's why I left Pedro and Madders out. As I said, I was able to give them a bit of a rest. We didn't want Brennan and Destiny to play more than an hour. All of these kinds of decisions at the moment about trying to get us into a position where we have as many players healthy as possible. How good was Destiny Udogie, by the way? Just you could really tell that he was fresh. And obviously, he'd had those injuries. He had the injury at the end of last season that stopped him going to the Euros, and then the injury this season. But he looked fresh. He only played an hour, but he looked like, I don't know, like I can only talk for myself, but like I'd almost forgotten how good Destiny Udogie is. He glides across the turf. He's so brave on the ball in terms of driving at opposition defenders and attackers when they're trying to put the press on. And also just really super excites me. And this is not to in any way be negative about Pedro Porro, who I think is an amazing player and has loads of positives. But if we could play Spence on the right and Udogie on the left quite regularly, that physicality across that back four is really improved. And really, I think will help us defend set pieces as well. But also both of their ability to drive with the ball at their feet at defenders will cause more of the opposition to come and close them down en masse and therefore make space for when they can then pass the ball inside for other players. It's very exciting possibility of them playing together more often, I think. But let me know what you think in the comments. 300 of you watching concurrently, guys. Thank you so much for the support. We're on 68 likes. If you haven't pressed that like button on YouTube, please do press that like button. Let's get up to 100 likes if we can. The more likes we get, the more Spurs fans get to see these live daily shows every afternoon at 12:30. Mentioned Kevin Danso earlier. Some of you mentioned him in the comments and said this about him. I think he enjoys the wax. He's been great for us since he came in. He's really taken to the club, taken to the group of players and taken on the challenge. It's not easy when you're coming into a new club and we're asking him to come in and almost be a senior member. We still had 3 teenagers out there starting today. That's amazing, isn't it? And a 4th coming on. It's still a really young team. I think Kevin's been a super addition for us. Here are Kevin Danso's stats against Ipswich. 6 clearances, 4 headed clearances, 1 interception, 3 ball recoveries, 2 out of 4 ground duels won, 3 out of 4 aerial duels won, 2 fouls won, and 85 out of his 93 passes were completed. So like I've said a few times, really, really surprised me how comfortable Danso is on the ball and how confident he is playing balls in between in between the lines. He's a little bit, he's not like a Rolls Royce in terms of how he looks when he's on the ball, but he's incredibly effective. So it just shows it's not always what it looks like. And I bet it's a bit like Moneyball, isn't it? If you haven't seen the film Moneyball or read the book, make sure you do. It's a bit like Moneyball, which is all to do with how data is more important than how sportsmen look at the elite level. And Danso probably will have put off some clubs back in the day down the years because he's quite cumbersome on the ball, or at least he looks it. But he did a beautiful Cruyff turn in that game and is incredibly comfortable, I think, and has really, really impressed me, I have to say. Just going to get into the comments. Once again, guys, just in case you weren't here at the beginning, thanks so much for your support. Really appreciate it. Make sure you press like on the video. Do press subscribe as well. I'm getting close to 15,000 subscribers. If you want daily live Tottenham Hotspur news and views and transfer rumours every day, 12:30 p.m. on this channel. So please do press that subscribe button. And like I said at the beginning, I'm also a stand-up comedian by trade. So I've just started from this week releasing daily stand-up comedy clips as YouTube shorts as well. And also on Instagram and TikTok, where I'm there at Barnaby Slater Comedy. So come and check me out on there. But let's get into the comments. We're talking about Brennan Johnson, I mentioned before. Cots6875, thank you so much for your comments. Says, Brennan is the GOAT, guys. Trust. Maria says, it's safe to say we may never see Werner again this season, and that can only be a good thing. Cantab says, I thought Ipswich played really well. We were just very clinical. I agree. And also, just going back onto what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode about Sonny and potentially leaving, says, I get the feeling Levy will want to save a fortune on Son's wages. No, I don't think so. I think Sonny's probably on about 180, 200,000 a week. And I think we can definitely afford that at the moment. Like someone said in the comments earlier, we're making far more money from Son than we're spending every week. The Outlaw, just going back to Brennan Johnson, thank you for your comment, mate, says, Brennan has great positioning, underrated skill, knows where to be. Great comment. Completely agree. I think people just think that, when players get to the top level, they just automatically know what to do instinctively. It's not always like that. They're always thinking. They're incredibly intelligent beasts, footballers, but they also need to use their instinct. And if your instinct, like Brennan Johnson is to get into the right position at the right time with the timing perfect so that you don't break the offside trap and you're clinical with your finishing as he is, that is an incredibly rare set of skills. Dan B says, who hated Brennan Johnson silencing the crowd? I think it was rude. I think he's done it a few times. I think he has got a fair bit of stick, but also we don't know for sure that he was silencing the Spurs crowd there. I think he was just doing it to the Ipswich crowd, but not sure. But I think he's got a fair bit of stick from Spurs fans, so I don't mind if he gives that a little bit back. I think I've said this a number of times. As Brennan Johnson grows as a player and as he grows into the hierarchy of Spurs and becomes more and more of a vital kind of first name on the team sheet at Spurs, I think he will go through the roof. And one of the examples I like to use for this, do you remember on his debut? He came on his debut as a sub. I think it was against Sheffield United in that game where we had to turn it round late. And he was put through really an incredibly difficult finish, volleys it into the roof of the net. And unfortunately, it was just called offside, but it showed that his finishing is absolutely elite. Tarzan says, Johnson is a tap-in king, but in a tight game, he offers little, short memories. Now, listen, Tarzan, really appreciate your comment. And this is the beauty of football and of us making football content, really, and getting to talk to you guys live, because it's all completely subjective. You saying he's a tap-in king, but you have to be in the right position to tap it in. It's not everyone's instinct, like I was just saying. You have to have that skill set. You have to have the timing. Now, what I will say is that sometimes, because he has these kind of three things that are absolutely elite, and I talked about them earlier, sometimes he can get a little bit kind of unseen in a game. You don't see what else he's doing because he stays out wide. He gets his boots chalky, staying out on the touchline, as Postecoglou asked him to do. And he doesn't get involved a lot with the rest of the play. Now, I would say in a similar way, that's what Mo Salah does as well for Liverpool. So they are asked to do that. They are asked to be top finishers and to be put in positions where they can do their best work. And I think that is why sometimes Johnson isn't involved in the rest of the game so much. The only thing I'd say about Johnson that I feel, and I don't know if this is an Ange tactical thing or whether this is Johnson sometimes being too tired, I would like to see Johnson working harder to protect his fullback and stop crosses coming in. But I think that's got to be a tactical request from Ange that they don't really do that because, and it sounds mad, but because both forwards, wide forwards, very rarely do help out their fullback that way and don't try and stop the crosses. So it must be Ange saying to them, stay a bit further forward because I think we're going to do more damage on the break than we are likely to concede goals. But we do concede a lot of goals from crosses, especially then coming from one side of the pitch all the way to the back post. And that can frustrate me, to say the least. Blip 1982 says Johnson is so underrated. Would be a different story if he had a more exotic name. Reads the game very well and always seems to pop up when needed. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a really good comment. Thank you so much. Going back to that question I said about where do you think Tottenham can finish this season? Utokea Hub says finishing anywhere above mid-table would be a confidence boost for the players. Yeah, agreed. But maybe we can think a bit higher. Not many teams are putting together winning runs at the moment. And a lot of clubs, I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of clubs are now starting to get their injuries. Man United really suffering from it. Man City suffering from it. So maybe we can benefit from a lot of clubs kind of now starting to go through the injury problem we had. Heidi says 8th max this year. Cantab, boy, did Ange learn how to rotate and rest players the hard way. And Triple J says at full strength, we are the second top team in the Premier League. I think that might be slightly over egging the positivity. I talked about Destiny Udogie and how much I'd forgotten how good he was. And Tarzan says this, agree. And then it's just skipped through, but says, agree. I think you were saying agree. I'd forgotten Udogie. How good with him on one side and Spence on the other. Okay, next up, Ange was asked about Archie Gray and how he warmed to the task of facing Liam Delap at the weekend. He said, that's the beauty of Archie. Like I said during the week, we know he's playing out of position. We know we're throwing him challenges. Delap's a handful for anybody in this league. First few minutes, he caused him some problems, but I love that Arch takes on that challenge. He doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't hide. He just keeps going. As I said, we'll get enormous growth out of him during this period, but right now he's contributing to us. He's helping us. I thought we had to do some defensive work today. Not a lot, but the defensive work he had to do was important against, like I said, a real top striker. I thought he handled it well. Now, let me know what you think. Ange Postecoglou waxing lyrical about Liam Delap a little bit there. And I have to say, I was really impressed with Delap. He's a proper old school, old-fashioned handful. He's like Alan Shearer, but with a touch more pace. He really surprised me how quickly he got away from Archie Gray in those first few minutes. He's a proper handful. And if Spurs are going to want to properly push on and try and win things and try and challenge for the championship in years down the road, we are going to need more striker options in depth. So I'd like to think that we'll be involved in the chat for Liam Delap in the summer. But Man City do have a buyback clause on him. But if I was Liam Delap, why would I go back to Man City when they've got Erling Haaland. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a throwback to my 90s days. Alfie Inga Haaland is obviously Erling Haaland's dad, who used to play for Leeds. But no, when Erling Haaland has just signed a 9 or 10 year deal. Andrew was also asked about Danso and Gray swapping sides in central defence this week. He said, we just felt Archie is more comfortable on the right. We felt he could do better on the right and gave Kev a go on the left-hand side. We wanted to see how he goes on left-hand side because he may have to play that side for us during this period. He was also asked, Ange, on whether that switch was justified by Archie's pass to release Sonny ahead of that goal. It was a beautiful... If you remember that goal, actually, worth talking about. Not just the beautiful chipped pass over the back line that Archie Gray played, but just before that, he read the game so well because he cut out a through ball that might have put Ipswich in. So just showing all of his qualities. And Ange said this, if you say so, I'll take it. Any decision that you think is a positive look. I thought Archie Gray handled everything thrown at him really well. Like I said, I just felt today we kind of knew Delap's a handful. I felt putting Archie in, he's a right-sided player, putting him on the right side, and Kevin's a bit more experienced. I wanted to see how he would handle it on the left. Andrew was asked on if the mood in the camp has changed with players returning. He said it was never the mood. It's a different feeling because the lads have now got energy. They're recovering from games. They've got an opportunity to train. They see they've got support and help in terms of other players. Training's been really good the last 2 weeks. The first training sessions we've had for 2.5 months, really. You saw Kulusevski today. People forget he was unbelievable at the start of the year. The poor guy's just been grinding it for 2.5 months without any excuse, without any complaints. He's just kept going and going. You saw today, he's got energy, he can run at people, and he scored a brilliant goal. For all players, I think it's not so much about the mood, it's about the mental state of having an opportunity now to be able to perform at the levels that we want to perform at without the challenges we've had to face over the last 2.5 months. I think it's worth talking about Decky Kulusevski. I have to say, and if you're watching me on the watch along on Chris Cowlin's channel, you'll have seen, I thought he had a poor game. Overall, I thought he was having a poor game. He did look tired. Not a poor game because he's a poor player or anything like that, just because, as Ange said, he's just been burnt into the ground. But that shows what a player he is, that not only did he have the trust of the manager to stay on the park for the entire 90 minutes, but also then in the last few minutes, he cuts in from the right, absolute trademark, and bends a beauty in off the far post to make it 4-1. Absolutely brilliant goal and made up for the whole rest of the performance. And I think that's basically what Ange was saying in those quotes there. And I'm here for it. Jed Spence, by the way, also got to give some credit to. His stats were 1 goal, his first Premier League goal for Spurs, 2 out of 2 successful dribbles, 4 out of 6 ground duels won, 1 clearance, 1 interception, 5 ball recoveries, 2 fouls won, and no fouls committed. And also keep your eye out on TikTok or Instagram Reels for Jed Spence's sister. She posts these match day vlogs, and they're really good. She's so class. And yeah, just keep an eye out for them. I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, but she makes really great content as well. Just before I go into some more Ange quotes, just come into the comments. Cantab says, is Danso an obligation to buy? No, I think we just bought him already. Oh, no, actually, I think you're right. I think it's like obligation at about 20-25 million, something like that. Tarzan, imagine how good we'll be when Werner comes back. Size gonna gowl says, have you ever seen Udogie cross the ball over the defense? Never. Do you mean like his crosses all hit the first man? I think that's because Ange Postecoglou, and I watched them at an open training session once at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. All the drills that they do is about getting to the byline and hitting crosses low. So I don't think Udogie is ever trying to hit high crosses very regularly anyway. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Dark Angel 56 says Destiny is absolute quality. Watched a lot of him when he was at Udinese. My only concern is repeat injuries with him being so young. I hope the op has cleared up any further issues. Well, really good point. And Dark Angel, thank you so much for your comment. I hope that some of the quotes we got from Ange Postecoglou last week about how they're taking a lot of time over Mickey van der Ven and Romero and trying to get biomechanics experts to look into Van der Ven and why he's suffering the same injury over and over again. I hope they do a similar thing with Destiny Udogie, because I really hope we can keep him fit. We really need, clearly with Ange Ball more than anything else, we need a deep, fit squad and regular rotation to save these players' muscles. So we need to improve on that. And I'm hopeful that a lot of these kind of medical team changes that we've been making are for the benefit of these players. And we're going to learn more about their biomechanics and how we can keep them from getting injured over and over and over again. There's quite a lot of chat in the comment back and forth. Some of you supporting Brennan Johnson, some of you against. Dan B says, no doubt Brennan Johnson is amazing, but needs to be humble, learn from Sonny or even Spence. I wouldn't get too wrapped up, guys, in the fact that he shushed the crowd. I'm even sure that it wasn't the Ipswich crowd he was shushing. I wouldn't even worry about it too much. Kieran Proper, thank you for your comments. Says, morning, Barnaby. I think people really don't appreciate Johnson. He'll be the perfect rotational winger. He can start and come off the bench. You need those players to win the title. Agreed. Totally agrees. Listen, to get a British squad player now, you basically do have to pay 40, 50 million pounds. And that is what we did with Brennan Johnson. And I agree. Like I said, as he rises up the hierarchy of the club and feels his importance as part of this team and continually gets praise from Ange Postecoglou, who clearly loves him, he will improve. And I could see him becoming a really excellent player. Do not forget this, guys. Mo Salah, when he was Brennan Johnson's age, was at Chelsea. Didn't get a chance at Chelsea, was sold, I think, by Jose. Went to Basel. He had to go to Basel, and that's where he started ripping it up. He then went to Roma, and then he came to Liverpool pretty late on. So Brennan Johnson is well ahead of the game. I know he's got a different skill set to Salah, but he's scoring goals in the Premier League years before players like Mo Salah were. So you've got to just realize this, guys. He is an incredible, incredible talent, I think. Brilliant. Got a super chat from Dark Angel 56. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate that. Guys, in case you don't know about super chats, you can, if you want to get your messages guaranteed to be read out, you can support me by giving me a super chat. Really appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you so much. And Dark Angel 56 says this as well in the comments. If you go back to Gary Lineker, he was a tap-in king and no one complained. Yeah, Lineker was the ultimate tap-in king. When I was growing up supporting Spurs in the late 80s, early 90s, Gary Lineker was one of my idols. He was just, and he talks about it on his podcast, he was just all about the importance of being in the right place at the right time, timing your run, he talked about it in a podcast this week, actually, about how it's not about waiting to see where the ball's going to go. It's about anticipating and taking a risk of making your run before the ball is even played. And that's what Johnson is incredible at. Really, really good. Tariq Amin says, Brennan's father was an Ipswich regular where he applied his trade. So maybe he was doing it out of respect for his dad. Yeah, very good point. His dad did play for Ipswich, of course. Okay, moving on. Ange was asked, are Spurs now safe from the relegation worries? He said this. It goes to show you how ridiculous a notion it was to start with. People saying we're safe with 12 games to go and people actually talking about it, that's the hysteria. And that's all framed around putting pressure on me and the club. And I get that. When you're in that position, you've got to accept it. For me, it was always about trying. We always had that Villa FA Cup game as a marker. We got to get to that space as best we could. We obviously didn't get the outcomes we wanted from those games during that time, but not through a lack of will or effort from the players. That was always my primary concern, to protect them and support them, because they gave everything during that period. Now they've got some help. They've got some rest. Like I said, we're not happy with where we are in the league. Obviously, it's unacceptable, but we've got an opportunity to address that. Yeah, completely agree. Let's hope that we can just keep up. Look, if we can win against Man City Wednesday night, 4 in a row, we beat them 4-0 away, so they'll want some revenge, but they'll know we can cause them trouble. And if we are clinical against Manchester City, then we can turn them over. Andrew was asked about Kulusevski, by the way. He said this. He's been unbelievable through this period. People forget he started the season on fire. He was unbelievable. You can see when he's got the energy and gets a chance to recover game by game that the quality is there. He scored a cracking goal and worked hard for the team. I'm so pleased for him. Really, really good stuff. Just before I go on to some finance news and reports on Spurs, just going to see what else have we got. Sai's going to go out. Just reporting on his earlier comment where he said that Udogie doesn't beat the first man. He said, "We never cross over the defence. You constantly say there isn't service for the striker. Remember the assist from Moore at Everton." I think really, Maria says, "You need some water, Barnaby. A few slips of the mind, dehydration." Okay, I'll have a sip. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate your support. I think, look, just because I was at that open day, that open training session, and I saw the drills that Spurs were doing, I really do just think that with Ange Ball, what he wants us to do is just constantly get those low crosses across the box. But yeah, maybe you got a point. Sal's going to go. I appreciate your comment. Okay, Kieran Maguire, the finance expert, has given some thoughts on those Qatar and Levy links. He says that he thinks Daniel Levy could be phased out if the Qatar deal gets done over time. He suggested that, like Crystal Palace chairman Steve Parish, Levy might not be too keen on surrendering complete control of the club just yet. I think that's a given. There have been plenty of reports that have said that Levy's ideal is to get investment in about 25% of the club, but for him to remain as chairman. And even if the investment then goes on to buy the club over a long period of time, he would like to still remain as the chairman, which I think is what happened with Parish, who I think has only got 10%. In fact, Maguire said this: Daniel Levy doesn't want to give up his position. If we take a look at some other deals, Steve Parish at Palace is first and foremost a fan. And even though he only owns 10%, he is the chairman and wants to be involved in operational decision-making with a minority stake. This could be an element of pragmatism from potential Qatari owners. Levy doesn't need the money from the sale of shares because he does extremely well out of his Spurs salary. So if he's going to play hardball, which is his default position, we now have hardball squared. That is enough to put off many potential investors in Spurs, even though it is an incredibly attractive business proposition. So what Maguire is saying is he wonders if Levy kind of insisting on any deal, including him staying as the day-to-day chairman of the club, might be putting off potential investors. He goes on to say, a staggered approach has some merits. It will also allow new owners to become familiar with the unique nature of the football industry and more specifically the Premier League, while Levy remains the face of the club. That might work or it might not. We've seen at Man United there is a potential staggered arrangement with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He has the rights to match any offers for the Glazers' shares and he has operational control of the club, but that doesn't always lead to a smooth operational control. You could see how that might be the case at Spurs in a post-ENIC environment. I agree. And this is why I always say, when it comes to Levy out, ENIC out, just a little bit of be careful what you wish for, because I don't think in any way it will be an easy transition. And Levy, he has a lot of faults, of course he does, but what he does have is the benefit of having done it for a long time and he knows how to do it. And that's why Tottenham are in such a good position financially. There is a possibility of, if Levy had money to spend in the bank from an investor, that he might spend it a lot less frugally than he spends his own money. But let's see what happens. I'm not jumping for joy at the thoughts of Qatar owning the club, but also, that you got to admit there is a little part of you that thinks if you can't beat them, join them. Just before I give you a last bit of news now, guys, 350 of you watching this concurrently, 120 likes. If you haven't pressed that like button on YouTube, please do press that like button. And like I said, please do subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. Daily Tottenham Hotspur and transfer news every weekday at 12:30. And also, like I said, I'm now releasing stand-up comedy clips because I do stand-up. That's my other job. Releasing them on YouTube Shorts every day. And actually got a comment here. Darren Endine, thank you for your comment, mate. Says, just watch a clip of your stand-up about your mum's ex being in the crowd. Lots of smiling, laughing emojis. Didn't know you did comedy too. I really appreciate your comment, mate. Thank you for your support. Do go and watch those YouTube shorts and tell any friends you have who like stand-up if you think they'll like it. Share it around. Okay, guys. Neil Warnock, the old Warhorse manager who used to manage Jed Spence, has given his thoughts. He used to manage him at Middlesbrough. If you remember, there's a famous picture that Jed Spence posted when he got promoted with Nottingham Forest. He showed a picture of him with a cigar in the dressing room at Wembley after the playoff final. And I think he referenced Neil Warnock in that. So a little bit of a shot across the bows. They're clearly not each other's biggest fans. And this is what Jed Spence, this is how much he wound up Neil Warnock, because Warnock said this: well, I watched Jed Spence and I thought, what a player, Unfortunately for me, I'm hoping that some of the things I said to him at Middlesbrough might have come through because he wasn't a nice lad. he had a few problems, I thought, at Middlesbrough, and he had to sort himself out. But last night, when you looked at him on the pitch yesterday, I even thought, I bet he's doing all right off the pitch now too. I'm hoping he has, because I didn't like him as a person. But skill-wise, that was never in doubt, really. But even when he first went to Tottenham, I was watching him and he was like, he wasn't playing in position. I thought, he's getting dragged all over the place. He's learnt so quickly, hasn't he? Well, that to me, that bit is Neil Warnock talking out of his arse, because he never played any games for Spurs when he first came. That is just the reality. So Warnock just adding a little bit on there. Anyway, Warnock went on to say he's had to as well. I mean, he's had to. And, when we had our disagreement, I won't tell you what it was about, but it was in COVID and he wasn't clever, really. I was disappointed in him. But he was one of them that you'd say, you don't know whether he's going to end up at Bromley or he's going to end up at Spurs. It's up to him, really. And when he went to Spurs, I don't think Conte wanted him. I think they bought him because they wanted to get some English players in. Because I don't think Conte wanted him, if I'm honest, but you'll give him a chance. And I looked at it, I thought he was refreshing me. That's nice. Everything he did, I thought that'll do for me. So I think Warnock's trying to take some credit for the fact that Jed Spence is playing well now. Epec20 in the comments says, shit's going to hit the fan with Jed. Okay, well, I don't know. One thing I will say is I want Jed Spence's brilliance this season to then be continued over many seasons. I want him to get an England call-up. I want him to start realizing that he has to put this amount of work in to really maximize his potential, of which it is limitless. He's an unbelievable footballer. He's doing brilliantly. He's winning man of the match after man of the match. And who knows what happened under Warnock at Middlesbrough? Who knows? We can speculate. But Warnock, he's a bit more of a stick than a carrot man. And I think Ange Postecoglou has dealt with Jed Spence well. And long may it continue as far as I am concerned. Okay, guys, thank you so much. It's been a long episode, 45 minutes, but thanks so much for your support. Over 350 of you watching. Do press that like button if you haven't already. Please do press subscribe for Daily Tottenham Hotspur and transfer news, and also those stand-up clips, which you can see every day on YouTube Shorts or on Instagram or TikTok at Barnaby Slater Comedy over there. Really appreciate it. Just a couple of days now till that Man City game. I'm so excited about it. I think we can turn them over. But either way, it's going to be an amazing watch. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, guys. Come on, you Spurs.